without further ado, let's just get right down into it. Here are my top 2023, top 10 matches of 2023. Kicking things off, number 10. I am going for the father versus son match. There is just a part of this match that you still look at Dominik Mysterio as a kid, right? I mean, there's just so much that went into this match. Rey Mysterio, Hall of Fame, the feud that we were looking towards seeing. I mean, I thought it was never going to happen, but it did happen. And we talk about this feud. I don't think it gets brought up often. And for a father to son, you have the age difference. You protect one another. You had, you had Bad Bunny, I believe, right? You had Bad Bunny in the middle of it also. So, and this because it led up to Damian and Bad Bunny later at WrestleMania, at WWE Backlash. So, coming in at number 10 is Rey versus Dominik, father versus son, WrestleMania match, dream match in my books. Really stands out. I mean, they got family into it. Could things have been different? Of course, but can't you say that among every other match? So, number 10, Rey Mysterio versus Dominik. Coming in at number 9 for me is the Civil War between the Bloodline. You had the Usos on one side taking on Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa on the other side. This was exciting to watch. I enjoyed watching this match. I enjoyed actually the first half of the year. I enjoyed the feud altogether. I felt post WrestleMania, yes, you saw the cracks. Yes, you needed this. How everything happened after this match, I think, went back down to maybe I was a bit more stale because I have not really seen the hype. But this was a match that you really got excited, got behind on seeing, because this also led to Roman being pinned or losing for the first time. So, number 9, Civil War match, the Usos taking on Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns. Coming in at number 8 is the Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. And the reason why this is my top 10 in the WWE, not just because of the hype, because they're in Puerto Rico for a pay-per-view, not just because Bad Bunny, is, representing Puerto Rico, but whenever we knew that Bad Bunny really was able to have a match. There's not many celebrities, no matter across whatever genre you come across, that can perform in the wrestling ring as good as Bad Bunny is. Now, I'm glad that he's not doing it full time. But it was a promotion for, I think, what began the future of these PLEs, in my opinion. Yeah, you had the one up in Canada earlier on last year, but I think this one really now just motivated you going forward. So, great match for these two, great pay-per-view overall, and that's why it's in number 8. Number 7 was Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown's Women's Championship at WrestleMania 39. Rhea Ripley goes on to win the Royal Rumble match. And this starts off, the year for her in the domination and to the growth that she's really built. One thing that I can tell you, one thing I actually absolutely dislike is how NXT opponents or NXT superstars come up to the main roster and they really just have to reconstruct their entire character. We saw Pete Dunne to Butch back to Pete Dunne. DIY was separated. They came back. We've seen the same to a handful of others. And it takes them some time. Sometimes a lot of them don't even bounce back at the same level. But we see Rhea Ripley getting this main event. I think one of the arguments was, could she have faced Bianca Belair? Yes, it would have resparked a NXT feud, but there was a lot of history in NXT between these two years past that I think a lot of people forgot, and that's why it made sense. So it came in at number 7. Number 6 for me. I think this was monumental because you had this was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on Roman and Solo Sikoa. This was the Night of Champions. This was in Saudi Arabia. This match particularly had a few things going on. One, the Bloodline was arguing against each other because Jimmy and Jay couldn't accomplish their task and keep those titles. You also had Sami and Kevin, or more likely Sami, trying to continue to dismantle the Bloodline alone. This was also the first time that we saw Sami Zayn compete in Saudi Arabia ever, which I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. And it was one of those matches that succeeded. So with everything that was present at the time and the circumstances, that's why it's in my top 10. Number 5. This one, man, you got Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. And Cody Rhodes loses at WrestleMania and argues that he is going to claw his way back up the rankings to earn himself another title shot to beat Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar immediately offered to be his tag team opponent the night after WrestleMania. And in the main event, before the main event even started, Brock turned on Cody, led them into a feud where it ultimately finished in SummerSlam. And I thought the third match was a better match than the first two. But this began that journey for Cody that he needed. And this is why it's number 5 in my top 10. Because if Cody did not go through those next 4 months in that, battling and in that position, defeating Brock, even just going after him, I don't think he'd earn another opportunity. Number 4 has to be the WrestleMania sweet spot between the Usos defending and losing their undisputed tag team titles to Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. A feud that I think really popped throughout the first 3 months of the year for a lot of people, not just Sami Zayn, but for Kevin Owens, who was part of this, who really got involved in this feud late in 2022. The Usos really got more of a spotlight. We haven't seen tag teams really main eventing a WrestleMania. It also brought heat to the Bloodline. And a lot of people really was behind this match. And would probably, some will arguably say that because Cody lost at Mania last year, that this was the match of WrestleMania that actually saw. You saw kind of that tipping point where you finally get over that hump of when you think that they couldn't be beat. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn finally came in, and you had the crowd with them, and everything just worked out perfectly. Number 3, and I may definitely get some heat on this one, but this is it works in number 3 in a lot of reasons, and I think you'll have to look at the first 2 in order to understand. And I think a lot of reasons why Cody and Roman at Mania comes in at number 3 was because the incompletion of the story that we've talked about for years on end, or for the last 3 months. He goes out and he wins the Royal Rumble, and I think a lot of it has to do with effect. Here's the effect. You've seen others in recent years go out to win the Rumble. I've seen Edge, Brock Lesnar. They've gone on to Mania to challenge Roman Reigns, and they lose. Cody Rhodes becomes another statistic, and I think a lot of people were behind him because they're we talk about the family business. You talk about, and it seems like everyone now has that. Hey, I've had that relationship with your father. I could use that against you. Doesn't work for me. So when it was a really good match, it was a great match, but when you consider everything in between, I find it a bit further down on my list, and that's why it's at number 3. I know a lot of people are going to say it should be number 1, but it's not. Number 2 is the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 39. We knew that Sheamus and Drew and Gunther couldn't go and fight and compete. You talk about a brawling fight that only these 3 men can do inside the ring. No one else could ever do it. It lived up to its potential. It lived up to the hype. I think it was an overlooked match. It was an underlooked match at WrestleMania. No one really gave it credit where credit's due, and it excelled. I think the only part that I don't like about the outcome of this match, I think this jumps Gunther up in the rankings of where he should be at. I think a win like this at Mania with the distance that he went at the Rumble last year elevates him. He wouldn't be in championship conversations without these matches. It's upsetting because they haven't really used Drew all that well. And I know his contract has been up and down, but he hasn't been used accordingly. Sheamus, I don't know if he's been dealing with injury or not, but I mean, we haven't seen him in quite some time. And I get it. There's a handful of these guys. Sheamus is getting older. Drew's getting older. Gunther's in his prime. But come on, man. This was probably one of the, this is, in a physical fight, this was one of the greatest fights in WWE all of last year. But the reason why it doesn't come in at number 1 is because the story between Sami and Roman, that I think was even a little bit more bigger than Cody and Roman last year, had to be at Elimination Chamber in Canada in front of Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn's friends and family. This was a betrayal from the bloodline that attempted to force him to do things he didn't want to do with his friends or against his friends. In this sense, we go back to the Royal Rumble where Kevin Owens faces Roman Reigns for the title. He loses, but then Roman wants Sami to hit Cody or hit Kevin with the chair after he's already beat Sami hits Roman on the other side, challenges. It's the biggest pop. It's the biggest hype that you get out of anything. It's the biggest crowd reaction, fan base. You knew, we were even talking about it this time last year, that if you did not have Sami win or have this match successful, if it didn't get pulled off the way it should have been, you would have had the entire city in Canada, or the entire country, protesting this in the arena. Like, that's how bad it was, but it made it so much greater. I thought this, you could see the raw emotion from Roman Reigns, the desperate of, hey, I needed this, and this really sparked. This ended up sparking Sami for this tag match that ultimately got them the undisputed tag team titles. Where are they at now? That's a different conversation. But this match really not just lived up to the fight. It was the main event of the year, I believe. Like I said, bigger of between Cody and Roman, just because it was a buildup. All of 2022, Sami was trying to be a part and fit into the bloodline until he realized what Roman was trying to do. He tried to warn the Usos, who did not listen. And because of all of this leads into a singles match, a turn. It leads into a singles match. It leads into tag team titles. It leads into, the impact that Sami Zayn has on the fall of the bloodline in this past year, causing Jey Uso to head on over to Raw to be having a singles career. All of that is thanks to Sami Zayn, and arguably thanks to this match in general.